Page 50C is a continuation of the store's training program items, and starting off with number 26, these are the various stores documents that we had made reference to earlier, and this is the opportunity, like I've mentioned several times previously, and that is to create a 3-ring binder for all the documents and their associated procedures and the systems that they support. 27 is the maintenance organization itself, and that pertains to the people that are going to be integrated within the maintenance management program, such as the planners and schedulers, if there are more than one of the planning and scheduling maintenance work order system, the supervisors that storeroom personnel would work with, and then also all of the various craft personnel. The next application is 28, which would be all of the data processing applications, which we reviewed in the previous section. And 29 are the conversion requirements between the purchase quantity and that which is actually going to be received into the storeroom. And here there would probably be a series of conversion applications so that the people in the storeroom have actually gone through the various conversion programs themselves. Number 30 is the material handling equipment, and here we would have tests relative to the training of each piece of equipment, and then test the individual to make certain that he or she thoroughly understands the full operational requirements of the various material handling equipments that you would have in your storeroom. Likewise, the various pieces of counting equipment, such as balancing scales, ratio scales, weigh scales, and any other type of scale that is required to support the record accuracy of the storeroom. And then there would be those requirements to maintain the storeroom itself. And this would also include housekeeping, safety analysis, and look at, as an example, luminaries. If they, let's say, are out, they should be replaced, and any other application that would enhance the storeroom itself. And then we want to talk about the interrelationship of the storeroom with the other planning functions in the maintenance management organization, like the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system, the inventory management system, and likewise the purchasing system. Now here, I'm not talking about the introduction of the people that are supporting these applications. We talked about that earlier. But this is the actual integration of the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system, how it interfaces with the inventory management system, and how that interfaces with the purchasing system, and likewise how all three impact the storeroom program. One of the easiest training aids to accomplish that particular task is go back to section number 1, page 4. And there we outline the 9 functions of the maintenance management program, and then we actually show through those lines with the arrows. If you remember, we covered that at the beginning of this seminar. And that is one of the easiest training aids that I know of relative to showing that integration. And then you could develop your own relative to how you integrate those particular applications internally within your own system. Now, continuing on with page 50D, we want to talk about the interrelationship of purchasing to the vendors. In many cases, the storeroom is going to be ordering material, as we defined earlier, especially where we have vendor stocking programs. They will be issuing purchase orders where there are, as an example, items to go out for repair, items to be returned to a supplier, and so forth. So as many of the different procurement applications that can be done and supported within the storeroom. It's going to, again, relieve purchasing for some of those types of activities where they can spend, as I've indicated previously, more time in the area working with vendors on the spare parts program. 36 is the interrelationship with the financial department. And the easiest way to demonstrate that interrelationship would be through the cycle counting program. The other area of interrelationship would be all of the data elements that we would, let's say, supply the financial department with, and then they in turn would give us the various cost records and files relative to the costs associated with the storeroom. And many of those types of reports are going to be covered in section number 9, which is the financial analysis of the storeroom. The next item, 36, is the vendor stocking program. And as I've indicated just a moment ago, the storeroom is going to be totally integrated with the suppliers. And once the vendor stocking program is established by purchasing and inventory management, then the storeroom will literally take over its responsibility and continue to execute the vendor stocking program until there are either changes made by purchasing or inventory management. And the last step, 37, is what else do you think that you would want to entertain relative to training in the storeroom program. When I started off the storeroom program, I indicated we have a very comprehensive and detailed outline relative to training subjects. Again, let me reiterate that the time elements should be relatively small on many of these subjects, and where additional time is required, they may want to be amortized over a period of 1 to 2 weeks. Every one of these 36 items that I have discussed with you, we have done internal training for many of our particular clients until, let's say, the storeroom supervisor or the maintenance supervisor or maybe personnel in the training department, which is an integral part of, let's say, human resource, could develop their own expertise in order to train not only current people but new individuals as they enter the maintenance management program. Now, on page 51, I have developed a list for your use relative to indicators for operating excellence. This is really a byproduct of questions that have been presented to me by maintenance professionals like yourself. And they'll say, what are the elements that would indicate that we are a Class 1 maintenance storeroom? Not necessarily a Class 1 maintenance organization. We've defined that in Section 1. But what are the indicators that represents that I am Class 1 relative to the maintenance storeroom? So page 51 addresses my answer to that question. And let me just walk you through these items and make reference to any of the items where, let's say, a further interpretation is required. We want a high service level, which is the fill rate out of the storeroom. Well, you and I both know when we went through Section 4 and we developed that where used list and its associated service level after we developed mean absolute deviation, which was the development of safety stock. And as I indicated, as we went through that portion of the inventory management program, that the service level attainable consistently is never 100%, but it's 99.99%. And I think here the goal should be the highest fill rate possible. That would be a byproduct of the where used code. So you could go back to that matrix and identify from 95 to up to 99% 99% fill rate. That I would recommend you use as a guide, but still we're trying to achieve 100% fill rate. Item number 2 is record accuracy. Since the storeroom is secure, I'm assuming that, and that you are responsible for the 5 transactions within the storeroom, then you should be able to achieve 100% record accuracy. It's when you start to eliminate some of those transactions where the inventory record accuracy starts to deteriorate. Item number 3 is a byproduct of record accuracy, but here it's location accuracy. We discussed a document and a procedure to support location accuracy, and my advice is if you're not accomplishing that, institute that procedure. Item number 4, minimum inventory investment. Now really that's not a storeroom function unto itself. That has to be integrated with inventory management and purchasing. And there is a ratio that we've talked about previously that is for non-continuous process companies. If you could achieve a ratio of 80% planned maintenance work orders and 20% unplanned, then your inventory should be able to be reduced at a minimum of 80% and reduce the carrying cost of that 80%. With the advent of vendor stocking programs, you could still reduce that 80% planned and reduce the balance of 20% to maybe 15%, if not less, which would indicate that inventory level that you're going to carry on hand for future unplanned requirements. We want high inventory turnover. And again, that is a byproduct of the inventory management and the purchasing management systems. But they're totally integrated with each other to try and achieve these inventory investments, keeping to a minimum, and have high turnover where it's practical. Item number 6 is no shelf life problems. That's strictly a function of the storeroom. The shelf life, if you remember, is an expiration date. And when an item is going to reach that expiration date, we want to have the storeroom look through the records on a time series basis, probably no less than 90 days in advance, to determine those items that may reach their shelf life date 90 days hence. That gives us an opportunity to determine whether those parts can be used through the planning and scheduling function, and if not, then those items through purchasing should be able to be returned to the supplier for replacement or credit. Minimum obsolescence, that really should read 0 obsolescence. However, until you have the equipment spare parts where used list complete, you're still going to retain some obsolescence in the storeroom. That's a byproduct of improperly designed systems to support the data integrity of the equipment and its related spare parts list. But once that spare parts where used list has been finalized, then it's up to the storeroom to put it into work as we defined in section number 3 of the notebook, and item number 7 after that period of time should read 0 obsolescence in the storeroom. We want to have, as item 8 indicates, excellent stores equipment, and that pertains to counting equipment, material handling equipment, and any other equipment that's required to support the storeroom and storeroom personnel. We want to institute a training program. Now, we just went through really a very serious, very detailed training program. But remember, once you go through a training program, training doesn't stop. There should be a continual training program for other subjects that you may want to consider, that are an integral part of stores training. Never stop training. We want to have trained stores personnel. Now, not necessarily as a byproduct of a training program, but trained stores personnel that can perform any activity within a storeroom and thoroughly understand the storeroom interrelationship with all other functions within the maintenance management program. And item 11 really has to do with housekeeping and likewise safety and health, and that is a clean working condition. If you remember at the beginning of this seminar, I showed you a couple pictures of before and after relative to one of my clients. You could literally eat off of the storeroom floor today. Now, I'm not advocating we do that, but that's how clean that operation is. They have developed the golden rule themselves. Nothing goes on the floor. Everything is either put into a tote pan or on a skid, but ultimately all the material will either be put away in a bin location or be issued based upon either purchase orders or maintenance work orders. And item number 12, I think, is the the capstone for stores excellent, and that is excellent morale in the storeroom. There has been a study made many years ago about the amount of time that you spend at work versus the amount of time that you spend at home. And believe me, the majority of our time is spent at work. And one of the things that I learned many years ago from some wise people that I had an opportunity to be tutored by, and that is try and have your working conditions be as close to your home conditions as practical. And I happen to love foliage, and many storerooms that I walk in have plants and various foliages around. It enhances the looks of the storeroom, but one additional and very important feature, it increases the morale of the storeroom personnel. And who maintains those plants and foliages? The storeroom does. They don't contract out like some larger organizations have done. Now, the next series of pages are an evaluation of the storeroom function. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every page with you, but I want to address how you should proceed with this evaluation. On page 55, and you don't have to turn there immediately, that indicates that there are 34 different evaluation points. And each point is identified, and I'll go through the first page with you and at least cover one or two items. They are identified by number, that is the step of evaluation, how that evaluation occurs, and then on the right-hand side there is a point spread from 1 to 5 points. And the process is very simple. You should make copies of the evaluation itself. Give those copies to individuals in the maintenance shop. Now, you may also want to do this internally within the storeroom. That is a snapshot at that point in time how these people perceive how the maintenance storeroom is supporting the maintenance organization or supporting individuals within the maintenance organization. The ground rules are very simple. Just make a circle around the individual weighted point value from 1 to 5 based upon those 34 data elements. And as page 52 indicates, which is the title page, you have an opportunity to weigh each and every item, that is the 34 points, and then record the individual ratings by each and every person. The point system that we generally start off with is 125 points. In other words, if you compile for each and every person an average of 125 points, you're someone or somewhere in the norm of a good storeroom operation. If you're less than 125 points, it means you have a lot of homework to accomplish, and that homework is the analysis of the 34 items that are in the evaluation process. If you're greater than 125 points, that says you're on your way to operating excellence, but you still have a long way to go. The key is to know where you're at now, and ultimately with the 34 data elements, establish the programs to enhance maintenance stores as the people that are evaluating you look at and address the store's program. At some point in time, maybe 4 or 5 months later, you want to have another evaluation. And the points should start to increase from wherever they were previously up to around 4 or 5. And maybe after another 4 or 5 months go by, you may want to have another evaluation, and you should be up around the 4 to 5 weighted point application for each and every of the 34 steps. That, to me, is a nice way to have people address the way they perceive the storeroom, as I mentioned a moment ago, and it kind of gives you the roadmap on how you can go from where you're at today to operating excellency. Now, if you would turn the page, let me address just the first element and show you how that is accomplished. Number one, it says the responsibility for the effective functioning of the maintenance storeroom is assigned and communicated. That means that everyone that's going to rate you understands what the function is of the storeroom and how those storeroom activities are perceived by people in the maintenance operation. And as I said earlier, if it's circled 1, that says you've got a long way to go for improvement. If you're around 4, that says you have another step for improvement, and maybe we have to, issue out an organization chart to all the people in the maintenance operation and probably indicate what the function, the responsibility of the storeroom is to the maintenance organization. And on page 55, I do have a final note that addresses the cumulative score of 125 that I mentioned a moment ago. If you want to succeed, and it's entirely up to you, there isn't anybody that can do the job for you, but if you want to succeed, then I thoroughly suggest that you go back into section number 6 in greater detail, look at the index at the beginning of section 6, develop an implementation program for operating improvement. Put that program over a time fence. Don't try and crash and burn into operating excellence. It's going to take time. You may also have to have support by not only top maintenance management, but also top management within the organization. Communicate to these people the byproduct of the ranking of or the rating of the maintenance storeroom as other people outside of stores perceive it. Develop your game plan for operating improvement and indicate what you're trying to accomplish. I would also use that list of the different elements that we discussed for world-class storeroom, operating excellence, and use that as a potential goal when you communicate your objectives to management. And again, if you are typical of other companies, I know you can do it. they have, and I wish you success in your storeroom program. Now what we're going to do is to move into section number 7 and address a few data elements relative to maintenance work order planning and scheduling, and how those data elements are integrated to the store's program. Now in section 7, page number 1 and 2, we're going to discuss the data elements that are required to support the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system. And it's going to be quite apparent immediately that much of the data elements that we are going to review here are an integral part of the storeroom responsibility. Let's at least start off with the first element, which is the definition of the 2 types of work orders that we addressed originally in section 4 in the inventory management portion. We have planned and we have unplanned maintenance work orders. The 4 types of planned maintenance work orders are identified as the preventative maintenance work order, the overhaul of minors, and the overhaul of majors. And then we also have projects. The unplanned are the emergencies that can disrupt, as an example, production during production operations. Then we have the maintenance work order requests that would be converted into unplanned maintenance work orders. We have the standing maintenance work orders, which are those relative supporting the 2-bin or bench stock program, and other applications like periodically reviewing the steam lines, the water lines, doing some painting where walls may get marred and so forth due to traffic, and anything that is really not planned but can be scheduled on an ad hoc basis. And last would be the miscellaneous type work orders that are generated by people outside of operations, generally office personnel and other types of departments. Now, the planned maintenance work orders are going to be housed in the storeroom. And when a planned maintenance work order goes from planning to scheduling, then the execution of that scheduled work order is the actual release or issue of the order. So that tells us immediately that the storeroom has to be tightly integrated with all of the planned maintenance work orders. On the other hand, where items are required, like spare parts or other items to support the maintenance work order system, then the storeroom would be able to issue those unplanned requirements from what we call the unplanned inventory. The second step is the shop calendar, and that basically is used by planning and scheduling to first plan the work orders and then subsequently schedule them. The 3 time elements that we show here in item number 2 would be a weekly shop calendar, which then could be broken down by day and subsequently by shift. Now, if there are work orders that are going to be planned on, let's say, 2nd and 3rd shifts, then the storeroom has to support that 2nd and 3rd shift issue. If, on the other hand, management feels that they do not want to have support, that is storeroom support, on the 2nd and 3rd shift, then the storeroom is going to have to pre-pull any parts, tooling, equipment, and special documentation, and have that material be staged in an area that can be readily accessible to the 2nd and 3rd shift maintenance organization. So here again is another key integration of requirements. The third element is craft requirements, and that addresses who by labor grade will be performing the tasks on various planned and unplanned work orders. Now, items 4 and 5 on page 2 addresses the tooling requirements and the equipment requirements. And here again, these requirements are an integral part supported by the maintenance storeroom. Item number 6 addresses the start date. Now, these start dates can be integrated with the work orders where the material could be delivered to the job site. Again, another step of integration between planning and scheduling and the storeroom. Item number 7 pertains to the work order time periods, and as we reviewed these time periods earlier, we indicated that preparation time 7A must be developed by the storeroom. The other time elements are those that are generated by the maintenance work order planner and scheduler. And again, item number 8 is another option that you have to add additional information to the work order data elements. Now, continuing on page number 3, we've taken an opportunity to take that work order time element that we addressed in a previous exhibit and kind of broken it down into a little more detail. Step 1, the preparation time, as you can see, is really integrated with the storeroom 100%. Obtain instructions or special documentation, get the spare parts, identify the parts with hang tags, get special tooling and special equipment, and likewise identify the tools and equipment with hang tags, and then we have an option: do we want that material to be delivered to the job site, or should we have it in a staging area for scheduled released orders? And then the next step, craft personnel would come by and pick up those work orders on the vehicle that they're using, or any other a requirement to move the work orders and the material to the job site. The other data elements, as I've indicated in the previous exhibit, are those that are estimated by the planner scheduler, and that would be the travel to the job site, all of the data elements relative to performing the work, and then traveling from the job site. And item 5, something we didn't discuss up to this point in this seminar, and that is a contingency time for delay. And when you're first starting preventative maintenance, it's a good opportunity to allocate maybe 5, no more than 10 minutes to a work order to give the individual craft person that's performing the work the opportunity to review the position and condition of the equipment or asset, and they do that through their observations and findings. And then if there's anything that they think should be communicated back to the planner scheduler and to the various shop supervisors, then they would do that through the third element, which is recommendation for operating improvement. Continuing on page number 4, we have some PM and maintenance work order time element objectives. And these objectives are very simply stated. And let me kind of give you an overview of the objective. We want to increase craft utilization equal to or greater than 100%. That also pertains to efficiency on the job, equal to or greater than 100%. We want to drive the non-work time elements to 0. So the way this is accomplished for these time elements is as follows. Number 1, the preparation time should be done relative to releasing any order from scheduling to craft personnel. So here we have to set up the communication of the storeroom personnel to communicate to planning and scheduling that preparation is complete. In other words, this work order is ready to be released. The travel time is an element of where we could mobilize, if you will, the workforce so that we can reduce travel time, both to and from the job site. I've already talked about the objective of work, get it equal to 100% utilization and also 100% or greater relative to efficiency. Now, the delay time will automatically be dropped from the PM program after we have gained experience and we're not getting the feedback from the craft personnel because the conditions previously, let's say, cited were improved, either eliminated in terms of potential machine failure. So those are the applications of trying to drive any of the non-productive work time, which is item number 3 here, to 0, and we've given you some indication on how that can be accomplished. When we talk about the scheduling considerations of the maintenance work order on page number 5, we've listed some of the key considerations that the planner scheduler, in conjunction with the storeroom, has to take into consideration. Number 1, the type of work, and that would be either planned or unplanned. The date required is the date planned, but ultimately the date scheduled. They could be different. We may have to do some rescheduling of a planned work order based upon maybe the availability of equipment or the availability of spare parts, tooling, and equipment. The work required is the detail relative to step number 3 of the work order, and that's called the work time, or sometimes we refer to it as the wrench time. The time required is estimated for each and every task, each and every sequence or operation on the work order, and those time elements can be changed as a byproduct of the recommendation from the individual craft personnel that are working on the job. Item 5 indicates the craft required, and that is those personnel that are going to actually do the work as the maintenance work order indicates. Now, item 6 indicates the documentation that is required. This is a maintenance storeroom responsibility. Likewise, 7, the spare parts, a maintenance storeroom responsibility. Item 8, the special tools, a maintenance storeroom responsibility. And 9, special equipment required, is also a maintenance storeroom responsibility. And this is required relative to the feedback from the storeroom to the planner scheduler to indicate whether all of these items are ready to be released, or if there is a shortage, then maybe the planned maintenance work order would have to be rescheduled within the plan prior to actually developing a schedule release date. The last item, item number 10, is the integration of the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system with the operational work order planning and scheduling system. And if you can kind of review these 10 data elements, you'll see that the majority of those are an integration between the maintenance storeroom and the planning and scheduling activity. On page number 8, number 6, excuse me, we're identifying again in detail the 2 types of work orders and describing each one. I'm not going to take the time to go over those, but these were identified in pages 1 and 2 as the data elements of the planning and scheduling system. Here we're actually showing those relative to the types of data that is required relative to planned versus that which is unplanned. So I'm going to continue and turn to page number 7, which is a job planning sheet. And remember, we looked at a job planning sheet when we were in section number 6 in the STORES program. And here is a different job planning sheet that is used by the planner, scheduler, when he or she is going to plan a job. Reading across in the top heading, we have the job sequence, we have the manpower requirements, and then we have the material or the special tools and equipment that are required. So you could see immediately when we're going to plan a job, we have to make certain that we're addressing the spare parts, any tools, equipment, or documentation. So if we look at some of the data elements on the job planning sheet going from left to right, we start off with the sequence number. Some people refer to that as the operation number. And those are listed in straight numeric sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one pertains to the storeroom, and that is preparation time. That would be the description of the work. And if you look over 3 columns, we have the estimated time, the task and man hours. We come back to the third column from the left, and that is the craft requirements, people that are going to do the work, the number of craft personnel. And then, as I mentioned just a moment ago, the estimated time, again, preparation time, must be developed by the storeroom. So the storeroom becomes an integral part of supporting the data that is going into the job planning sheet. And then the last column indicates material and or tools and special equipment and documentation. And here again, the storeroom has to support its function by making certain that those items, the parts, the tools, the equipment, and documentation are available, as I said several times previously in this section, to support the planning of maintenance work orders, moving to scheduling, and ultimately to release those to the craft person. Now, the next 4 documents pertain to the PM work order that we had already reviewed in section number 6. But we've added another dimension to the work order by adding pages 9, 10, and 11 as an integral part of this PM work order. So let me kind of address those items. The bubble numbers that appear on page number 8 are identified on pages 9 and 10. They indicate where the data came from and how the data is used. Those data elements are generally for the maintenance work order planners and schedulers, and also for the individual craft personnel that are going to execute this particular PM work order. The element that we looked at for this same document in page, not in page, but in section 6, we noted that the tools, equipment, documentation, and spare parts would be identified associated with the particular operation number. And this is, again, the integration of the maintenance storeroom with the planning and scheduling system. So what I'm going to do now is turn the page to number 9 and merely give you an opportunity to walk through some of these data elements, but let me address the heading. The bubble number that was on page number 8, as I indicated, is in the left-hand column of both pages 9 and 10. So that gives us a quick cross-reference to the data associated with pages 9 and 10 to the document itself on page 8. The middle column addresses where the identification is or what it is trying to identify. So that is under Form Item Identification. And the right-hand column identifies the information and the source document that provided the input into this work order program. Now, if you would turn to page number 11, what I want to do here is to describe the frequency codes that are used by the planner and scheduler where we have a fixed frequency code relative to a shop calendar. These frequency codes are self-explained. The code is tied in with the definition of the code, and if you look all the way down at the bottom, the FR code is a temporary code which really is jointly developed between a machine operator that indicates there may be a problem with a machine, the craft personnel, the maintenance supervisor, and ultimately the planner scheduler. Once that condition is eliminated, the FR code is eliminated from the PM worksheet. Now, moving to pages 12A and 12B, we have all of the data elements that you may want to consider relative to designing your own PM form. And don't forget, this PM form should be used for both minor and major overhauls. The key data elements that are on this form are broken into sections. So I want to address at least the sections without reading all of the data elements per section, because in many cases previously to this document we've talked about the data elements. The first major section is the heading information, and in this case we've identified 12 individual data elements that are required for the heading. And I think as you review these, you'll see that they are self-explained. When we get into the second major portion, we're talking about the PM activity, and that's all of the work requirements. And here again, when we talk about the individual sequence or operation numbers, we're addressing the first operation or sequence number 1 as preparation. And again, that's an integral part of the storeroom responsibility. And when we get into the items identified as 16 are the spare parts, 17 the special tools, 18 special equipment, and 19 special documentation. Now, what I'm addressing here is that when a PM form is going to be designed by maintenance management or by planning and scheduling, the data elements from 16 to 19 must be referenced back to the storeroom, which means that the maintenance storeroom personnel should at least participate in the partial design of the form relative to the data that they have to look at and how that data is transferred over into items that have to be, let's say, issued out of the storeroom to support the PM program. Now, moving to page number 12, we're talking about the PM reporting data, and here again we're tied in with the storeroom under step number 24, and that is if there are unused spare parts, they have to be returned to the storeroom. Now, the discipline of the storeroom is to identify all material that is issued out, and we do that through the hang tag process. We want to make certain when material is returned that those hang tags are still intact with the spare part. If they were not used, there's no reason why that discipline cannot be supported by craft personnel. And then again, we have the return of the tooling under 24B, the equipment under 24C, and the documentation under 24D. So you see the issuance of the PM order and the return relative to spare parts and tooling, equipment, and special documentation are totally integrated with the maintenance storeroom program. That's why we wanted to keep this document in this portion under planning and scheduling to show you the integration between the storeroom and the planning and scheduling and the reporting activity. And then last but not least, the next major section addresses the PM closeout steps and the data that is required. And here we develop all of the costs associated with the maintenance PM order relative to labor and all of the costs associated relative to spare parts usage, and likewise all of the maintenance overhead costs that are associated with that PM order. Now that concludes the maintenance work order planning and scheduling information, and what we've tried to do is to demonstrate the need for the people in the storeroom to know how that maintenance planning and scheduling activity interfaces the storeroom, and I think we were able to demonstrate that to you. Now, without further ado, we're going to move into section number 8, talk about the maintenance work order labor reporting, and again, how the storeroom is integrated with the reporting system. Now, in section 8, we're going to review some of the major data elements as a byproduct of craft labor reporting against the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system. And as we did in section number 7, the first 2 pages address the data elements that should be considered for maintenance work order planning and scheduling. Well, here page number 1 addresses the data elements relative to labor reporting. And I think you're going to see immediately from page 1 that we are integrating the storeroom, as we did in section number 7, to the reporting system like we did the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system. So let's take a look at some of the major data elements. First of all, we have a work order number, and that's all we need. We don't need the equipment number and the location and any other data. All of that data is integral within the work order number, and if you remember from the data that we reviewed on that PM form in section number 7, all of that other equipment or asset data is in the work order itself. Now, item number 2 addresses the time spent on the work order. And the first time element, A, is preparation time. That pertains to the storeroom. The other time elements are reported by craft labor, which is the travel time, the actual time, and then the contingency for delay. Item number 3 addresses the clock number or the clock numbers if there is more than one craft person assigned to the order. Now, the next elements pertain to spare parts used, which is 4, 5 is special tooling, 6 is special equipment. Now, those are all tied in with the storeroom. Again, as we addressed any tooling and equipment or spare parts that are going to be returned to the storeroom, it really is accomplished in this section, number 8, which is the labor reporting system. There are other things like item 7, the observations and findings of craft personnel, and sometimes The planned maintenance work order, the PM order, may not have the right part number listed, or maybe a part number was left off. So there could be part number changes made to the specific work order. That type of information has to be reported not only back to the storeroom, but also to the inventory record, so any of the requirements that were recorded in the planned column could be changed and have the appropriate part number identified. We also want to determine whether the observations and findings have been relative to the equipment, and then recommendations for operating improvement. And then, was the work order completed, or would we have to carry the work order over to, let's say, a different shift or maybe a different day? And item number 9 are the items that are to be returned to the storeroom. I alluded to that in items 4, 5, and 6 above. But here we're talking again about the parts, the tools, the equipment, and the special documentation. And likewise, the storeroom has to be trained in knowing how to support the return of these particular items. And item number 10 is, our opening in terms of what other additional information do you require. Now, relative to reporting against the work order by the individual craft person, we may want to have a total time on the job, that is the entire work order, or we may want to have the actual time by activity. And what page number 2 is addressing is the total time by activity. So here we would have number 1, which is the actual preparation time, which means that the storeroom is going to clock in and out on preparation time. Remember previously in section number 7, we had the storeroom identify the time element for preparation time. Now here we want to actually measure that time by performance. Should we increase the time, or should we reduce the time based upon actual performance? So we are becoming an integral part of the work order reporting system. Likewise, item 2 is the travel time to the job site. Item number 3 is the actual time on the job that is performing all of the work activities. And then 4 is the actual usage of spare parts. And if not all the spare parts were used, then those would have to be returned to the storeroom. We have observations and findings by the craft person or persons, the recommendations for operating improvement, and an actual time from the job site. And in this case, I have eliminated that contingency for delay for this particular section within the storeroom program. Then other considerations would be number 8, return item to stores, unused spare parts, tooling, equipment, and special documentation. We would return the work order to the planner scheduler for review of any notes and comments made by the craft person, and then any of the documentation that I mentioned above would be either returned by the storeroom, that's step number 10, to the file for that material, or we have found through experience it is better to shred those documents because they come back in not a very clean, environment. So one of the applications that we hadn't discussed earlier in the storeroom, and that is, how do you want to dispose of key source documents? Now, maybe that shredding can be done by the supervisor of maintenance. It can be done by a clerical function, or it can be done within the storeroom. That is a maintenance manager's responsibility. Now, continuing on, in step number 3 are the closeout steps. We're actually going to close the work order out. So if you look at the sequences of the work order, first we planned it, then we scheduled it, and then we released it from the storeroom. We performed the work. We reported all of the activities relative to the work order, and now we are now finally closing out the order itself. So the first step is to remove the order from schedule if completed to a complete status. Secondly, we would reschedule the work if it was not complete, which is really an integral part of one above. We're going to calculate craft efficiency for preparation time, the travel times, and time on the job. Now, why would we calculate craft efficiency when they are really not performing the preparation time task? The storeroom is. Well, it's very simple. The time in preparation gets charged to the job, and that's one of the elements we talked about earlier. If the storeroom reports the preparation time, the true preparation time, we can determine whether or not adjustments should be made, as I indicated earlier. So the term calculate craft efficiency are for those people outside of the maintenance organization, but you and I both understand that 3A is a storeroom calculation and not necessarily pertains to the individual, but it's an integral part of calculating the actual time that it took as compared to the estimated time. We want to calculate craft utilization, which is item number 4, determine actual spare parts usage, and then revise the schedule as required. In other words, there could be some sequences that should be changed. There may be a sequence that should be added or one to be deleted. Other considerations is to revise the work order, which I've just went through. And then item number 8 is revise the craft efficiency factor as a byproduct of the accumulation of all of the previous craft efficiencies and utilization analyses. Now, continuing on in page 4, we have the formula that is used by the work order reporting system relative to craft efficiency, and we should know that in the storeroom because remember, step 1 or operation 1, preparation time, is a storeroom an analysis. So we take the actual work order time, divide that by the actual time on the job, and multiply that by 100, and that gives us the percentage of time on the job. Now, from a storeroom standpoint, let's take a couple of efficiency, let's say, factors. If the efficiency factor is greater than 100%, then that means we used less time as estimated. Therefore, we could reduce the time if you want to make an adjustment to the preparation time. If the efficiency factor is less than 100%, that means we had more time in preparation than what we had estimated, and therefore we should increase the preparation time to another, let's say, additional time element. The key is to make certain that our efficiency in the storeroom of preparation time is equal to 100%. That means that the estimated time and the actual time are equal to each other. Utilization is the total time on a task, and therefore we could, as an example, accumulate all of the time elements by various people that are, let's say, processing and filling maintenance work orders to determine the load in terms of hours against the actual payroll time. And that would give the supervisor of the storeroom or the group leader, or in a smaller company, the maintenance supervisor, the ability to determine the ratio of time being spent on work orders versus the time that we're spent on receiving, going through the cycle counting process, delivering material to the job site, or putting material away in the storeroom, or doing consolidation. And that time element is used for future planning of additional craft personnel, not only in the work order system, but also people that are required in the storeroom. Now, you can look at page number 7 as the note applies at the bottom of the page for utilization. So utilization is total time on the job. So we'll take a look in a moment or two at this utilization analysis. But before we do, on pages 5 and 6, we're going through a calculation of what actually occurred relative to a work order. If we look at the work order time elements that are on the top of page 5, you'll see that the storeroom estimated it will take 15 minutes to get all of the material, the parts, the tooling, and the documentation for that item. It was also estimated that total travel time, that is to and from the job site, is going to take 20 minutes, and the actual work is going to take 3 hours. When we reported against the work order, it took the storeroom 20 minutes to do the preparation time. So that means we took 5 minutes longer. Therefore, from my previous statement about efficiency, we are less than 100%. And that is demonstrated in the efficiency calculation by item number 1. It took travel time 25 minutes where we had estimated 20 minutes. And again, that is inefficient, which is developed by step number 2 in the efficiency calculations. And then the wrench time, or the work time, it actually took 3.5 hours, and comparing that to 3 hours, you could see that we were 85.7% efficient. So as far as the storeroom is concerned, the question is, do you want to increase the 15 minutes to 20 minutes? And that would bring you up to 100% efficient. Well, before you answer that question, you may want to determine what could have caused that 5-minute delay. In other words, it took 5 minutes longer. Now, if you, let's say, compile many, let's say, planned maintenance work orders over a period of time, that utilization factor can be very important in terms of being in an inefficient environment. And if you change the time and you become 100% efficient, then you are looking at a more realistic time element, comparing actual time to estimated time against all of the work orders. Moving forward to page number 6, here we're looking at the actual time elements that were recorded, and therefore we summarize those. So the total time on the job was 4 hours and 15 minutes, where the actual estimated time from page number 5 under the work order time elements is 3 hours and 35 minutes. So you can see that the reporting system will enhance our ability to perform more efficiently and get a higher percentage of utilization by making adjustments to the estimate based upon actual times as recorded. At the beginning of the scheduling and planning system, you may not want to make adjustments, originally. This is a supervisor's judgment. You may want to get the people acclimated, in the storeroom to be working to a planned and scheduled environment, which is a heck of a lot different than the firefighting that most of us are probably working in. And you'll find that you can work more efficiently, do more work with less time in a planned and scheduled environment. At least that is the results of many of our clients and the result of my personal experience. Now, as indicated previously, on page number 7 is a craft utilization coding system. And the first item, 01, pertains to the preparation time. Now, there are other time elements that would have an impact on the storeroom. As an example, 06, a craft person is waiting for spare parts. Or 07, a craft person is waiting for special tools. Or 08, a craft person is waiting for special, let's say, equipment. And a craft person can be waiting for instructional information, which is in number 13. Those indicate that maybe the storeroom was not in a position to support the requirement, or we didn't have the proper bin location in our system. The objective of the storeroom relative to this craft utilization coding system is as follows. 01, preparation. We want to drive that to 100% efficiency and 100% utilization. When it comes to the spare parts, the tools, the equipment, and documentation, 06, 7, 8, and 13, we want to drive that to 0. When we're driving that to 0, that means that we are really supporting the maintenance work order planning and scheduling system, both from a planned environment versus an unplanned environment. So therefore, through this coding analysis, you could see the importance of integrating the storeroom with not only planning and scheduling, but likewise the labor reporting system. Now that concludes section number 8, and what we're going to do now is move into section number 9, which is the financial analysis of the storeroom itself. As page number 1A indicates, we're going to look at various financial accounts of the maintenance storeroom. And starting off with item 1, inventory value of the entire storeroom, it means exactly that. It's the total financial value of everything that is housed within the storeroom. Step 2 is the inventory value of the individual commodities or families. And that is a byproduct of that first field of the part numbering system. Item number 3 is the inventory value of all classification codes. And if you remember here, we have 18 different class codes. So each class code could be summarized relative to its financial value. Now, if I took the sum of 2 and the sum of 3, they should all be equal to the sum of 1. So 2 and 3 is a more definitive analysis of the total inventory value, which is in item 1 above. Step number 4 is the inventory value of special equipment. And that is equipment that is owned by the company. Step 5 is the inventory value of special tooling. And again, it's the tooling that is owned by the company. Number 6 is the results of the cycle counting program. And here we should analyze the results of the A items, the B items and the C items independently of each other. And then we could summarize the analysis of the results of cycle counting relative to the acceptable ranges that we discussed in section number 4. Item number 7 is the inventory value of the cycle count errors, and those would be represented by financial adjustments to the inventory records. Item number 8, the inventory value of inventory adjustments not as a result of cycle counting. And we may have inadvertently issued some material and didn't record it and report it. So 7 are the adjustments for cycle count errors. 8 is the adjustments for internal storeroom errors. But I don't care how you cut it, 7 and 8 are both storeroom errors. And the name of the game is to eliminate the storeroom errors. Now, item number 9 is the inventory value of maintenance special equipment adjustments. That would mean we either added additional equipment or we could have disposed of equipment because the equipment could have been in a non-operating condition. It's identical to obsoleting the equipment. Continuing on page 1B, we have the inventory value of maintenance special tooling adjustments. And here again, the idea is to add new equipment to the account and remove obsolete equipment as a byproduct of the non-functionality of that equipment. And then, or tooling. And item number 11, we want to compare the inventory value of facilities engineering projects. If you remember, one of the inventory classification codes that we reviewed in section number 4 was engineered project overages. Those are only the items that are an integral part of the storeroom. So this would give us an opportunity to know what the value of that overage is, but most importantly, we probably would want to assign and calculate the carrying cost for that inventory until it is actually used. Those costs should really be charged to the facilities engineering department. And then item number 12 is transaction analysis. And that is, how well are the receipts being recorded? Have there been adjustments? Issues recorded, again, have there been adjustments? And then location consolidations. Is the sum of 2 or more locations equal to the sum of total inventory when it is put into one location? If there are variances and record adjustments have to be made, likewise adjustments should be made to the financial record. Item 13 are payroll accounts, and that is what the actual payroll cost is relative to supporting the storeroom. Then we have the value of vendor consigned materials in. You're housing it, but you don't own it. And as I've said previously in this seminar, you want to make certain that the financial department has an insurance policy that will cover the potential loss or any other application that could reduce the inventory value of vendor consigned material. Item 15 is identical to 14, and this pertains to contract material that is consigned in. Item 16 is the inventory value of employees' safety materials, and that would pertain to anything that the storeroom requires relative to safety apparatuses such as helmets or eye shields, earplugs, clothing that may be required when I'm moving material of a hazard nature, any boots, gloves, and so forth. Also, item number 17 is the value of shipping supplies. And here we would have kind of a four-wall inventory. We'd start off with the physical value. We reduce the shipping supply value by what was used, and then we would add to that what was actually purchased for replenishment. And continuing on in page number 1C, we're looking at some additional storeroom financial accounts, such as 18, inventory analysis of shelf life items, and that is, did we get stuck? Did we have to scrap any items that had gone beyond the shelf life? Or did we return all of the shelf life items to the supplier for full replacement value? Item 19 is the inventory analysis of obsolete materials, and that is, what did it actually cost us to obsolete material? That doesn't have a negative financial impact on the storeroom, but it tells the company in total the asset value that was relieved by the, let's say, undepreciated value, if any, for the asset itself. But in this case, item 19 is represented by the spare parts that were obsoleted because of that equipment obsolescence. Item 20 is the inventory value of scrap, where we've actually had the scrap material out. It was basically non-functional, and in those cases, remember, we should develop the proper disposition procedures for scrap materials. 21 is the inventory value of the storeroom physical assets, and that could be all of the equipment, it could be the shelving, the various tote pans, the skids, and anything else that would had to be purchased to enhance the storeroom itself. And item 22 is again an opening for you to add additional items to the storeroom financial account. And the last page in this section, page number 2, is a complete detailed list of the financial analysis of your spare parts inventory. Now, previously, items 1, 2, and 3 indicated the total inventory value on hand, the inventory value by commodity or family code, and the third one was the inventory value of the different inventory class codes. Well, here we're compiling all of the data relative to not only the total inventory, which is 1, but the capital spares, which is inventory class code 1, the new spare parts through the new part notice system, which is class 2, and then any of the other items which would be incorporated in 4 all the way through 6, which would be the class 3 items. The inventory for safety stock would be class 4 to support class 3, as that indicates. And then we would have the bench stock items and all of the other classifications going from 1 to 18. 7 and 8 pertain to project parts planned and versus project parts returned. 9 again is the shelf life application. 10 is the cycle counting. And 12 are overstocked items, which can be a result of engineering overages, that is by engineered projects. And then we could have a 4-wall inventory calculation where 13 is the beginning inventory, 14 would be all of the receipts for a time period, and 15 are all the issues, and 16 is the ending inventory. And at any point in time when that calculation is made, 16 total inventory on hand should be equal to item number 1 above, which is total inventory on hand. It's just another way of calculating inventory cost versus inventory issues, and that could give us the input into inventory turnover analysis. Then we have our repair cost, item 17, and that is both external through the purchase order system or internal through the maintenance repair work order system. And then other items like 18 are returns to suppliers, 19 are supplier rejects, and that is a byproduct of receiving inspection. 20 would be the supplier stocking programs. 21 and 22 addresses the special tooling and special equipment. And here again, 23 indicates other applications relative to inventory. That is basically what page number 2 is addressing. The various ways that you can analyze either totally or portions of the spare parts inventory investment relative to the storeroom. Now, this concludes the program relative to the maintenance storeroom. And let me just make a couple comments relative to tasks for yourself. What we have tried to accomplish with this particular program and with the notebook that you have in front of you is to give you all of the tools to work with relative to enhancing the storeroom. If you feel that you need additional data, additional support, as I've said, going through the various lists of the data elements and the reports and other types of information, there isn't any program that I know of that is 100% inclusive. You're going to have to make those adjustments yourself. I know that if you follow the, let's say, the instructions that we have gone through in this seminar, take the recommendations that I have tried to make for operating improvement, I know that you can enhance the storeroom operation. Remember two things. The storeroom is your bank vault, and the inventory record plus the storeroom record is either your checking account or the savings account that you have personally developed. Keep those records 100% accurate, and last but not least, please keep the storeroom secure. Good luck on your particular storeroom enhancement program.